Welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Power Hour. We are live. SharePoint Power Hour is a show that we do for free every week here, streaming on YouTube and Google Hangouts, where we talk about SharePoint Business Solutions. And SharePoint Business Solutions are anything that doesn't involve writing programming, writing code, or really having to do anything in central admin or any kind of PowerShell-y stuff like that. So it's all these other things, all these other categories in SharePoint, like BI, workflows, forms, user interface, governance, just tons of different topics that are more sort of business solutions that don't involve that the custom kind of scripting and coding type of things. So today, this session is going to be the part 3 of my HR onboarding workflow. And okay, thanks. Let him in. The maids are here, and I'm going to go let everybody introduce themselves because I've kind of nagged a couple of my friends and got them to come on in and join us today. So I think we all see each other in the same order at the bottom of the screen. So I'll just let y'all go. I see Lori, then Joelle, then Tavis, then Todd. So I'll let y'all go down and say who you are and kind of just what you do.
Hi, I'm Lori Gowan. I work for Microsoft. I'm a SharePoint Premier Field Engineer. I focus mostly on infrastructure and power user.
All right. I'm Joelle Farley. I am a SharePoint consultant at Rackspace. I am actually on our custom development team, but I have a lot of experience with power user topics, so a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the call, as things like workflows, planning and design, information architecture, all that fun stuff. As you guys have probably seen if you've watched the session before, I'm a big fan of things like managed metadata and all of that, and search.
My name is Tavis Lovell, and I am also a consultant at Rackspace on the Business Solutions team. I am your friendly neighborhood BI developer on that team, so I usually deal a lot with SQL Server, and then in SharePoint things like Performance Point, Power Pivot, Excel services, reporting services, things like that.
And bringing up the rear, I am Todd Clint. I am also a SharePoint guy here at Rackspace. I don't do any of the fun end user stuff like these guys are doing. I just showed up. Laura promised there'd be chocolate, and so I'm here. Normally I do administrative stuff, install, config. I do enjoy the PowerShell-y stuff. I've actually got PowerShell running in another monitor here. But I guess I'm just going to be here as the adult supervision, kind of to chaperone these guys, make sure they do a good job.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. And my Twitter client just crashed, so maybe one of you can read out the YouTube link for fun as I'm going. But basically, it's going through a workflow. So it's an onboarding solution that I'm doing, an HR onboarding workflow process, and I started part 1 with like an overview of the process and just kind of more of a high level of what it's going to do and what the site's going to look like, and I showed you what the finished product looks like. And in part 2, I dug in and started, building all the lists and things like that, the whole structure behind it. And I started some of the workflow part, but there's, it's a pretty complex workflow. So I'm going to pick up today with more of the workflow and just digging in and starting to get it to do what we want it to do. So real quick, let me show you what I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I'll show you what the diagram looks like as an overview, and then I'll dig back into the workflow where I left off. So let's see, screen share. Let's see. And of course, the maids just get here right when my mother and children are leaving to go to the pool, so hopefully nobody will bother me while I'm doing this. All right. All right, so this is the workflow. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right, thanks. Okay, so as you can see, on the left, it starts with submitting a new hire. Then the manager has to approve that new hire. And then 3 things happen in parallel: the welcome packet, user account, and phone setup. And then you have to determine whether the employee, if they're in the IT department, then it's going to have a certain little branch that the workflow is going to go off, and IT security has to do some special thing. And then HR approval happens after that, and then the employee goes into orientation. So that's again the overview of what we're going to be doing, and we're not going to be doing any out-of-the-box task process designer stuff or anything. Any out-of-the-box workflows. This is all just completely custom, because with out-of-the-box workflows, parallel tasks are really tricky. Right, Lori?
Yeah.
So we were just talking about those yesterday in a real-world situation. I'm just using the create list item action in the workflow to do all of these different tasks instead of using any of the out-of-the-box task stuff, the task actions or anything like that. So that's why it's a little bit extra work to make it function and make it do kind of what it usually would do with an out-of-the-box one, but it's worth it because you have a lot more control over what exactly is happening in the workflow. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen, and so this is the site we've been working on. And this is the new hire form that people fill out, and then the workflow where we left off. So I'm just going to real quick go through what we've done already. I don't want to waste too much time going through past stuff, because if you guys need to see what we did before, you can just watch the other 2. They're recorded. They're on our YouTube channel, SharePoint RX, in our list of power hours. So here's the new hire approval process workflow. And so we did a couple things at the beginning. We have, they're filling out the first name and last name of the new hire, so we go ahead and just set the full name field to first name, last name. That way they don't have to, it's not redundant, they don't have to fill out the first name, last name, and the full name. It's just sort of a little minor thing there. And then if they're an executive, so we have this employee type field, if they're an executive, it's going to set a priority variable to high, and otherwise it's just going to set it to normal. So we're setting this as a variable so that we, whatever task we can create, we just can insert the variable right in there. And then we're trying to remember to do logging a lot as we go. That way we can see what the heck the workflow's doing when we look at the workflow status later, especially when we're troubleshooting. So it sets variables, and then it forces you to do a transition if you're using a 2013 workflow to go to manager approval. Now, for this workflow, it doesn't have to be 2013. You can pretty much do all the same exact stuff that we're doing in here with a 2010 workflow. You just don't have the transitions to stage. So you just have to use like an if condition. So if this, then transition to a, then do this action, as opposed to if something, transition to a stage. So it's not that much of a difference, but pretty much all the actions that we use in here can be used for either one. And then in the manager approval, where we have to create a variable for when the task is going to be due. So we're just calculating basically 2 days from now. So whenever this workflow first starts, we're just grabbing the modified date and adding 2 days to that. So that way we're holding it in here as a variable called 2 days from now. Logging that, and then we're just creating a task. So this is just it's just using the create list item action to create this task over in the task list. And we're inserting the priority variable in here that we created up above, and we're inserting this due date variable that we created as well. And we have a lookup over in the task list that's very important to be able to point us back to that original item. And you guys in the chat just kind of shout it out because I know I'm just going to talk and just keep talking, so interrupt me if you have any questions or if somebody in the chat window has any questions. And people that are watching, I know there are 15 of you, feel free to ask questions as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep blabbing. And then this part was a frustrating part because I usually, 2013 workflows kind of are frustrating. And this one little thing is that usually I like to just have a workflow run and do what it's going to do and be done with it and be completed. and not have to have it running and running and running. It's just mostly a pet peeve of mine. And then, but in 2013 workflows, in this case, basically you're creating a task, and then once the task gets completed, you would have the task workflow writing back to the new hire list to say, you know, that the task got completed and change the status to something else, which would trigger this workflow on the new hire list at that point. Well, in 2013 workflows, when a workflow on like the task list triggers another workflow on another list by changing an item, it doesn't trigger the workflow. It just changes the item and doesn't trigger any workflow that would normally run when an item gets changed. You have to actually open the item up and edit it and hit save for it to trigger the workflow. So it's really frustrating, and it's really dumb that now you have to kind of work around that issue that exists.
I have a question for
Okay.
you. All right, so Cassie asked, how did you get the promoted links to display the list new form?
How did I get the promoted links to display the? Well, I went into my new hire list, and I just clicked new item here, and I grabbed this URL. I just hit copy, and then I went to my promoted links list, and I have to go over to the list of all of them in here, and then when I created my promoted links, this is so funny. This is the thing that I get the most questions about, the promoted links list. I just pasted that new hire link right here for link location, and I made it so that it launches in a dialog box. And then I just have this little pretty icon of somebody writing on a piece of paper over in this images library that I'm pointing to here. Does that help? Okay.
Don't see any response yet. I'll let you know.
Okay. All right, so back to the workflow. So what I have to do in this workflow, because it won't trigger, one workflow won't trigger another workflow, is that I just have to wait. So I'm going to wait for the hire status field to equal onboarding in progress, which these are just some statuses that I made up myself. And what I'm going to do is create a workflow on the task list and make it so that when someone completes that specific task, the one for the manager, it will write back to this list and change hire status to onboarding in progress. Okay, so let's go over to and create a workflow on the task list, because we're going to go back and forth, and that way we can systematically go through the workflow and make sure that everything will go in the correct order. So I'm going to go create a new list workflow on workflow tasks here. And then I'm going to say task completed. Click OK. And for task completed, I really just need this to run when an item is changed, because I don't need it to do anything when a new task gets created. It's really just going to do something when someone completes a task that's already been created. So I'll just say it's only going to run when an item is changed. So now I'm going to say, okay, so this, did you have a question, Lori? No? Your face pops up in front whenever it hears you talking.
Yeah, it didn't hear me talking. I was unmuting myself because I do have a question.
Oh, okay.
So why would you go back to that, if you can, go back to the where you checked the when an item is changed? Why would you not also allow them to manually start that in case it didn't fire?
That's a good question. So I don't know. Typically, end users they just do their task and they do what they're supposed to do. They're like over there doing their job, and they don't know anything about SharePoint workflows or how they function or how to trigger one. Just in my experience, so I tend to build these not ever expecting someone to have to know to do that, because typical end users are just going to call the SharePoint admin usually anyway. But yeah, I could make it so that it's allowed to be manually triggered. I don't think that would hurt anything, except that if they went back and manually triggered it on one that they already completed for some reason, then it might screw up what's going on in the workflow if it goes and changes the status to something that it wouldn't naturally be. I guess. Does it make sense? So,
right.
Yeah,
I usually like to leave both of those checked, so I check to allow and then also have it do it automatically. That way, for me, it's kind of a fail-safe. If it doesn't fire for whatever reason, then they can easily go back and manually do it. If they call me and say, hey, my workflow isn't working, I can say, oh, well, go here and start it.
So we have someone made it. Kessie in the chat window said, "Oh, launch behavior, awesome, thanks." Great. Okay, so yeah, that's especially good for testing. So even in the long run, if you're not going to allow end users to be doing that, that is a good idea to leave it at least on for you, like while you're creating the thing. I went ahead and turned it back on. Okay, so we need to know for this specific HR approval task, when that one gets completed, we needed to do something special. So how are we going to know that it's that specific task? So I'm going to go back and look at what I called my workflow task. So the name of it is Approve New Hire. So I can basically just say if the task title begins with Approve New Hire, then that's what that one is. And now I have to remember to account later for the fact that I'm relying on the task name, and I might want to make the task name a field that nobody's going to be able to change ever, because if they did, that would screw up my workflow. So there are a lot of little things like that that you'd want to account for, like in the real world, just to kind of think through what could possibly go wrong in your workflows. So I've seen it all. So if task name begins with, I thought I just copied and pasted. What did it say? Good grief. Let's see. Approve new hire. Okay. Begins with approve new hire. Ooh, and it's case sensitive too, so I need to make sure. So I did all caps. Okay. And if I didn't want it to be case sensitive, like you can do like contains or equals ignoring case, just FYI. Approve new hire. Okay, if it begins with that, then what do I want to do? Then I want to go, and it's completed. So all these things that I'm going to do, these if statements, are only going to happen if they actually have completed the task. So if this is actually going to happen inside of this other one, like that. So if the status is completed, oh wait, current item, task status, not the outcome, which would be like approved or rejected, but it's going to be the status. So if it's completed, then it's going to do all these other things. So if it begins with approve new hire, it's going to, now I want to set a field in another list, so I'm going to use the action called update item. If you're setting a field in the current list, you can do set field value, but if you're setting a value in another list, you do update item. I see people for some reason using update item a lot, like for the current list, and that's not necessary. That's just set field value. Okay, so setting a field value over in the new hire list, and the field is going to be new hire status, whatever I called it. There we go. To onboarding in progress. That's what I was, waiting for it to equal in that other workflow. Where? So this is where I'm going to say which specific item am I going to edit. So it's going to say where the ID of that item in the new hire list is equal to, and that's where it's helpful to have that lookup field. So I have that lookup field in this task list that's going to equal the ID of the original item, the new hire person. So that's where it's going to find the specific item that it needs to update. All right, so if it equals completed and it's the new hire task, it's going to go update the item, and then it's just going to be done. Okay, and I can actually go ahead and test this. I like to test this along the way just to make sure. Okay, so I have it creating the item, waiting for the status, and then let me go ahead and do my transition. So for my it lets you put an if statement. The only thing it will let you put in the transition to stage is an if statement and GoTo statements. So I'm going to say if it equals approved, go to this next little stage I created in here. Otherwise, I'm going to create a new stage called rejected. So, and the reason I'm naming all these stages these things is so that it will show in the name of the workflow column in the original new hire list, so they'll be able to see visually what the name of the stage is that the workflow's in. And all I have to do right now, I'm just going to log that it was rejected, and later on I can just put something else in there like send an email. And then I always have to go somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and just end the workflow here. So if it's approved, go to the next stage. If it's rejected, go to rejected. So I love the way you can just kind of jump around in these things. And then I'm just going to put a log in here just so I'll know as I'm testing it kind of where the workflow went. So 3 parallel task time. And then go to end of workflow. Okay. The thing is, when I go to the end of the workflow, it's just going to stay whatever the last stage was that I was in. That's what the name of this will show in the workflow column. So just going to keep that in mind. I like to actually create a stage called completed, or use the there's an action in here like set workflow status, and you can set it to a certain word, just kind of whatever you want it to show. But I'm going to show you what the heck I'm talking about I'll go ahead and demo this now. I did all kinds of fun stuff with content types in the last session. I created all these custom content types for the different types of tasks and outcomes. So let's go see, make sure that all works. Okay, so home, fill out a new hire. I think Todd's going to be my new hire.
You're going to regret that.
I'm going to make you the janitor.
Janitor, yeah. The bathroom janitor specifically.
Oh, okay.
There's an opening there.
And, let's see. I'll just make up some stuff. Blah, blah, blah. You live in Ames, Iowa. I might have already made you a new hire. I hope I didn't. I might have, though.
You've probably fired me since then.
Oh, okay. Because you're in my virtual machine, like all of my coworkers are in as people in my virtual machine. So I'm going to be your hiring manager. No, Shane. Shane's going to be your hiring manager. And you're corporate. You're not an executive. All right. So now I filled you out. I'm just going to go over to the new hire list. Oh, look. Yeah. See, you're the one that I did last time. God damn it. So,
you never learn. You hire me, I screw up. You fire me, you hire me again. It's like Groundhog Day in here.
I'm going to delete this other one. I'm going to delete this old one. I don't want to confuse myself. Keep hiring.
Keep sending me the checks. That's all that's important.
I'm going to refresh this. Hopefully my workflow started. It's all confused now. Got 2 Todds.
Which some might argue is too many.
Oh, and I didn't set this workflow to run. Yeah, really. I didn't set it to run automatically, so I actually have to manually trigger it. So that's one thing I have to remember to go do in my new hire. See? I want that to start when items get created. So I'm going to go ahead and just that change in there just to make sure. All right. I think I hired you as a chef last time.
Oh, well, I tell you, if you like macaroni and cheese out of the box, and maybe chicken nuggets, then I think that was a solid move. Anything more complicated than that, you might be disappointed.
So I can click this link to see what the workflow is doing. This is my workflow status. So priority is set because employee is corporate, and I set my date variable. That's 2 days from now. And then the manager task was created. And also, I think in my last session, I created a dashboard. Did I create the dashboard? No, I didn't create the dashboard yet. So what I'm going to do as part of this whole thing is create a dashboard that will actually show me the person and all of the tasks around that particular new hire. But for now, I just have to go to the workflow task list. So this old one, that was for that first workflow that I started. I don't want to confuse myself. I'm going to delete that. Sorry about that. All right. So now Shane is supposed to approve this new hire called Todd. So he has to go into this task, hit edit, and then he's going to hit approve or reject. So when he hits approve, the workflow is going to move on to the next thing. So let's go back to the new hire list. and go see what it's doing. So I'll just refresh that. Go in here, and then it says it's in progress. So it shouldn't be waiting anymore. Let's go see. Okay, so let's go see if the workflow task actually ran. All right, go to workflows. Here. Suspended. Ooh, so something's wrong with it.
So I haven't been suspended yet already, have I? It normally takes a day or two for that to happen.
So it looks like the value, one of the values, now I don't know about you, Lori and Joelle, who have actually worked with workflows before, but I think the error messages in 2013 are way uglier than they ever were in 2013.
Yeah, they're terrible.
So it looks like basically it can't do the update the list item because of just this integer 32 makes me think that it's the way that it's trying to do the lookup. So let's go back over to this, and this is the only, it's the only action in here, so that's the only thing that it could really be, I think. So see this thing right here? I think that that's what I have to change. I'm going to try that. And that's a good reason to have the task workflow to be able to manually start it so that now when I fix it and have to restart it, I can actually do that. So I'm going to go in the one that was in here. That's the great thing about demoing this live is that just like in real life, you come across issues and you have to troubleshoot through it. So that's even though, some people might think, well, what a crappy demo. The thing didn't even work. Well, that's what happens in the real world, right? So, oh, look. So, stage 1. So I didn't name my stages anything pretty in that workflow. And I didn't put any logging in the workflow. So it actually completed, it looks like, but it doesn't show me anything because I didn't do any logging. So let's go back over here. Look at that. So it moved on. So it actually did do what I wanted it to do. So manager task rate, and then it did 3 parallel task times. So now it's moved, the workflow's moved on to where I'd be creating those 3 parallel tasks. So what I can do now is go back over here. Now, one thing I'd have to remember in here is to put some logging. So log approve new hire task. Let's see, new hire item updated. There. And I can even make it more verbose anyway. So I'll and then I even like to do logging for my else statement. So even if I don't need to do anything, even if I don't need to have an else statement in here, I like to at least say something so that the workflow doesn't do anything. I know what the heck, I'll be able to see, oh, well, it didn't meet this condition, so it logged, wasn't completed or whatever. So I could do that for all my if statements if I wanted to. Anyway, I'll go back over here, go back and edit it, and so let's move on. So now what happens with the 3 parallel tasks? So I love the fact that I have the ability to copy and paste now in my SharePoint, in my 2013 workflows, so that's huge. So let me see, I have, all right, so I'm going to do create an item in tasks, just copy that and paste it down here. And now all I have to do is just tweak some things in here. So I'm going to go in here and say, yes, it's still, it's actually going to be a different content type because remember in my last session we created a different content type for the person that has to create the Active Directory account actually has to put the user's Active Directory name in the task when they create it. So I created a special content type for that, so new hire account task. And then, so that's what this first parallel task is going to be. And then this is going to be create new account, like that is going to be the name of the task. And then complete, assign to, so it's going to be assigned to somebody different. So I actually like to use SharePoint groups for this. So my new hire, my new accounts are going to go to a certain SharePoint group, and the new person, the new phone account, new phone number is going to be a certain group of people. I tend to not like to hard code individual people's names into workflows. So let me go back over to my site and see if I already did this yet. Create those groups. All right, I don't have those yet, so I'll just go create a couple of groups. Yeah, they're not in there. Okay. So this is going to be create, let's see, IT create account. This is the group people who create new AD accounts. Make it very descriptive so you'll know what the heck you were thinking later on. And create. All right, and then I have to create another new group for, right now I'm the only person in the group. So this is going to be new phone. All right, and create it, and then there's going to be somebody in HR that's going to send out the welcome packet to the new hires. So HR welcome packet. And there are going to be some pros and cons around assigning tasks to groups versus individuals, and we can talk about that as we go to this group. All right, and change that to everyone and create. So now at least my groups exist. So what I can do is just hit refresh over here in my workflow to make sure, in SharePoint Designer, to make sure that now it sees those new groups that I created. So I'll go back in here and see if that, so this is the new AD account. What did I call it? New phone group. What did I call it? Good grief. Anyone? Bueller? HR members. HR welcome packet. IT create account. There we go.
How about IT create account?
There you go. Thanks.
I'm here for you.
Please create an account for this new hire and enter that. We also have to have emails going out to the people when the task first gets created. So that's another thing that we have to account for. So this will probably go past, it'll probably go into part 4. But I know that a couple people have emailed me, like friends out in the community, and said that they are actually going through building this and like hitting pause and doing each step themselves and walking through it. So that makes me happy. Like,
that's awesome.
And yeah, I know people are actually doing this. That's you, Jonathan Lightfoot. All right, so, and also in this description we can put information about the new hire too. We might do that later. Start date, I'll just say whenever this item was modified, not started. Priority variable, due date. Okay, this one's interesting because the 2 days from now variable has been set way back here. So if this thing waits for like a day for the hire status equal onboarding process, then this variable that I set way up here will not be applicable anymore. That won't be 2 days from now anymore. It'll be like only 1 day. So I actually need to go create my variable again. So I need to do the same thing again. So I can just take this and copy it and paste it over here. So now it's just the exact same thing. Current item modified, and then 2 days from now, and then I can use just that exact same variable name in here. I just need to obtain the variable again. Like it's recalculating what 2 days from now is, and then new hire lookup is the same. All right, and then so basically I'm going to be doing 3 different create item actions in here. Let me make sure. I've got my other workflow that I did that I'm logging, like I'm looking at to refer to each time I do these. Okay, so copy and paste. I just do Control-C, Control-V, and I can just use this same variable up here. Just change a couple of things. So this isn't going to be the new hire account task. This is going to be the new hire phone task. Content type. Create new phone. There. Don't know what that means. And then assign to, and this is going to be create phone people. New phone group. Move that one. Of course, I could have like used a good naming convention so they'd all be like in the same place in there. Please create a new phone. Set up a new phone. There we go. And enter that phone. No questions, huh? Okay. Start date, task status, doesn't matter. Let's see, priority variable is the same. Due date, new hire lookup is the same. I love copy and paste because this is so time consuming in 2010. Do y'all agree? Okay, copy, paste that. I got one more parallel task. And then we've got, this is going to be, for the welcome packet, all they're doing is completing it. So they're not, they don't have a field to fill out or anything. They're not approving or rejecting. They're just clicking a button to complete that was done. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call this welcome packet. Send welcome packet. All right, and then assign to. That's going to be the welcome packet. HR welcome packet. There we go. Please send the welcome packet. Okay. Same. All right. All right, so I created those tasks, and then this is the tricky part, because what I have to do now is the logic to know when all 3 tasks have been created, but all 3 tasks could be completed at any time, so they're not going to go in a certain order. So this one up here was easy with the manager approval because you're just waiting for that one thing to happen and then you can move on. So this actually took a little thinking and I had to figure out the logic behind it, because you have to be able to say, well, they could be completing these in any order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use math, and I'm going to create a new field.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Not math.
Now, I was promised that I would never use this after high school.
Oh no, math.
I didn't pay attention. You know, I have older cousins and stuff that say you never use math after you graduate high school. So
damn.
I sort of feel like I got some bad advice there.
So each time one of those 3 tasks gets completed, I'm going to increment a number up, so that once that number equals 3, then the workflow can move on. Pretty cool, right? So in my task completion workflow, let's see. Oh, I hate 2013 workflows. Sometimes they just all of a sudden are just gone and won't ever open again for some reason. It'll just say like SharePoint Designer cannot display this item. It's just very odd. Well, what are the reason I'm mentioning that is because I'm over in the other site where I created this workflow to begin with, the one that I'm referencing, and it's just the task one is just not.
So Office 365 or?
Do what?
Is it an Office 365 site?
No, it's
okay.
my 2013 VM.
Because I've had that issue with Office 365 sites that are still 2010 sites.
Oh. Well, it's think it'll be okay, but I just have to remember what I did. So I'm going to create a new field in my new hire list called like 3 parallel task count or just something like that. And what I'm going to do is each time one of those tasks gets completed, it's going to go change that number. It's going to increment that number up by 1. And then this main workflow is going to wait till that number equals 3. And then it's going to move on to the next part of the workflow, which is going to be that IT. You know, if they're an IT employee, it assigns a certain task. Otherwise, it goes to HR approval. So I have to create a new field. Let me go ahead and just save these. And then go over to my list. Not new hire links, new hire list. And I'm going to create a new column. Now, all my columns that I've created so far have been site columns, so I'm just going to keep up with that sort of standard that I've created. And I'm going to use site columns for a site column for what I'm doing here. And for some reason in my VM, anything I do around site columns is just a little slow. All right, so here's the little group that I've put my site columns in for this particular solution. I like to start them with A, just so it'll be at the top. So I'm going to say parallel count, and I'm going to make it a number field. And I have to default this number to 0. Put it in my new hire group because it has to be able to add a number to it, and if it's nothing, it can't increment the number up. This is the count of parallel tasks that have been completed. All right, so default number 0. It doesn't really matter, decimal places. None of the end users are going to be interacting with this field. It's just going to be there for me to use behind the scenes. So I created it, and now I can put it in my new hire content type. Oh my goodness. So just real quick recap of what this is. So now once these 3 get done, then we're moving on to this condition over here, and then we're moving on to the HR approval task. Okay, so now we'll go over to my site content types. And my new hire demo, that's the content, that's the actual new hire list has got this content type in it. So this is the one that I'm going to add it to. So add from existing site column. And the reason I didn't create this at the very beginning, even though I knew I was going to create it, again, I'm trying to replicate like what it would be like in the real world to build this out and kind of discover things along the way. So I'll add that. And then I can make sure in my new hire list that it just got added. Parallel count should be in here. Yep, there it is. Okay, now I want to make sure and hide that. I don't need that showing in my form when people are filling out, because right now when someone would go fill out a new item, they would see that. So I don't want to see that. I don't want them to be interacting with it. So I'm going to go back to my content type and hide it. So change that to hidden. Yes, I want to update all the ones that inherit from this. And then that should make it so that it's hidden in here. Create a new item, and now it's hidden. Okay, awesome. So at least now it exists, and its default is 0. So now in my task workflow, I need to be able to increment that number up as the tasks get completed. So I'll go ahead and refresh in SharePoint Designer. Since I created a new field, SharePoint Designer needs to be able to be notified that the new field exists. That's why I have to hit refresh over here. So, so if it begins with approved new hire, it's updating that. If it begins with, I'm going to do my else. It begins with something else. So else if task name begins with something, where's that begins with, and then what did I call it? Create new account.
We have a question whenever you have time.
Go ahead.
All right, Stacy asks, in your task, do you know a way to include a checklist of items that have to complete? I have multiple items I want HR to do and IT to do, etc. Then when all items in the checklist are done, they will mark the task completed, and a number will then increment.
That's like within a single task. You want a check, huh? Does that sound like that's what that is to you, Joelle?
Yeah.
A checklist of items they have to complete. Well, this is kind of a checklist.
Yeah, because I mean, you could always.
Task is a check.
Yeah, because you can always create like views.
Yeah, so like if I go to workflow tasks, it gives you a checkbox next to all the items. So you would just be going down the list and checking off things you had done, and it would mark them as completed. So that's what that is. A task list is a checklist. We just haven't created the dashboard yet that would show the interface to where it would show like one specific new hire and all the tasks associated with that new hire.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question. Okay, so if it begins with create new account, I'm gonna just copy this update item thing and put it over here. What I want to do is I've already got the logic in here saying which new hire lookup it's taking me to. I'm not updating the new hire status. I'm updating the parallel task count. Parallel count to what? Ooh, so I need to be able to calculate what that's going to be before I can put a value in here, because it's got to go look at what it is already and then calculate what the next number needs to be. So actually I'm just going to click OK and get out of there, and I have to do my calculation first. So I'm going to do calculate. Calculate value plus value. So I need to go over to my other list here, my new hire list, not new hire links, new hire list, and go get my whatever the value is in parallel count. Which new hire list item am I going to get? The one with the ID that's equal to the current item's new hire lookup. That's the great thing about lookup fields, is that they, they're based off of an ID. So I was burned before in the other one where I picked lookup value, and then when I changed it to lookup ID, the workflow worked fine. So I'm just going to use that going forward. So that I'm going to go find that specific item and go find the parallel count, and I'm going to do that plus 1, and that spits it out to a new variable. So I'm going to say parallel count plus 1. That gives me nice verbose variable name that will help me understand what I'm doing as I go. All right, so I'm going to be changing parallel count to the value that I just obtained using a, oops, I misspelled it. So if I misspelled it, I'll show you how I can fix that. I can go modify my variable like this, and then I have to go modify it in here. See, now it got lost. So if you're using a variable already and then you go change the name of it, you got to be sure and go fix all the places you're using it. Okay, so it's just going to increment the parallel count up by 1 here and go update the item. Pretty cool. And then else. So I've got to do another else if. The else ifs in 2013 workflows are really odd because it starts just like nesting them inside of each other. See if I go else if branch here. It's like it put an if here and then an else here and then it put it inside of here. It doesn't let you just keep going down the page like it did in 2010. Like if I clicked on right here in 2010, it would let me add another else branch. Or here or here, it would let me add another else branch, but it made me go like down inside of it. So whatever, but it's just odd looking because it doesn't look nice and neat like I'm used to it. So if, and then I'm going to say, maybe I could just copy this. task name begins with, and I'm going to say something else. Begins with the other one. Oh, I have another thing I need to update in here. This one was create new account. Oh, sorry. Stacy says I don't want to send them 15 tasks, just one task email with a list of things. That's tricky. I'll let my friends in here ponder that one while I, like, some way that you could maybe loop through and put them all in one email or something while I keep going. So I'm gonna I have another thing I have to update for this one. It's create new account. So I actually have to put whatever AD account they fill in the task. I'm going to put that over in the new hire item too. That way it's not something, the person creating the new AD account doesn't have to actually go over to the new hire list. So I'm just going to say set field. Y'all have any idea around that one thing that she's asking about?
I mean, the only thing I can think is just creating the task without sending an email and then creating a dashboard of tasks like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think. You could possibly, yeah, the email you could do would be an email from out of the workflow and group them all together with links.
Yeah.
On, you know, the new hire ID or whatever, because it's going to have that correlation.
Interesting. I wonder if you could use any of those new technologies like the dictionary thing and like loop through all the tasks that have a certain value for this and like compile them all into one email. That would be cool to figure out. But we don't know right now, Stacy. Sorry. All right, Todd's gonna blog about that. I'm just kidding. Todd's gone. Anyway, I can put him on the spot all I want. All right, so we got 8 minutes here. Okay, so what I was trying to do here is I want to take whatever new account they filled in the task and update that field in the new hire list. I just don't know what the field name is because it's not showing in the drop down when I try and do that. So I'm going to go look at my new hire list and make sure that I actually created that field. It was like, I'm going to go look in the task list too because I know that it's in the task list. New hire account, yeah, there it is. So new hire account is the name of the site column. So let me go over to my site content types and make sure new hire account is in here. It is in there. It's hidden, but it's not showing in my drop-down box for some reason. So like, let me see when I go over here, new hire account. See, it's not showing it. So just to troubleshoot that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhide this, change it back to optional, and then go back over to my new hire list and see if it appeared in the list of columns here. It did not. This happened to me earlier, I think, in one of the last demos I did, and I think maybe I just had to wait a few minutes.
Yeah.
And it appeared.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was very odd. So, but also I could go add from existing site columns right here and add it as well. Or I could go into the content type here. You know, I'm going to skip that right this second just in case it just takes a few minutes for it to get pushed down and just come back and check it. So what I'm doing next, though, is I'm not doing create new account. The next task is going to be called create new phone. So I'm going to say begins with create new phone. And then I have to calculate, I'm going to do that same calculation again. So copy that and paste it. I love it. Okay. Did I just, no, I just copied and pasted something else. It didn't copy what I tried to copy. Wait, let me see. Yeah. Calculate. Copy. Paste. No, it didn't. That's weird. It didn't copy the calculate. That's odd. Huh. Whatever. Okay, I'm going to calculate it again then. Okay, so I have to go calculate the parallel count plus 1. So over in my new hire list. Is this really boring for everybody, or is this helpful? It's just, I don't know if it seems very monotonous.
Well, viewership has gone up since we started, so I think that's a good sign.
21.
We're at 21 viewers. And I think it's good, especially if there's people telling you that they're walking through it, you know? That's great.
Just seems like I'm talking to myself, that's all. You know? That's why I started dragging all my people, Lori and Todd, into here. So it's like, we need lots of people just to make it, you know, lots of conversation or whatever around it, even though it's just me talking. All right, and then update. So I'm going to go update item. I'm going to copy that and see if it will let me paste it. Yay, okay. So maybe it's just the calculate one specifically that it doesn't let you copy and paste for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to update my parallel count. And so this one I actually don't need to change. It's just going to be updating it to whatever the current value is plus 1, and then updating it in there. Let's go back over and see how our content type is doing. This is like one of those cooking shows where you go like stick something in the oven and then come back to it. It didn't put it in there, so I'm just going to go add it. So right now I'm in my setting, my new hire list, in my content type in here. And it's supposed to be new hire account, and it's not in here. So I'm just going to hit add, and then of course it's working on it. And I've got 4 minutes. Oh, I didn't put it in the new hire group when I created it. No, or did I? That's very interesting. So it doesn't show it in there. Oh, okay. The plot thickens. Site columns. Oh, of course, I have to wait 5 minutes now to get to my site columns. What I'm looking for right now is the new hire account field, and I'm trying to figure out why it's not in the actual list that it's supposed to be in, because I created it as a site column, and it shows here, and it's just not showing in the content type that I added it to in the actual list. So here it is, new hire account. New hiring manager, though, is showing in there. Huh. I think it's kind of buggy when you create something and set it to hidden before you actually add it to the list you're going to use it in. I think that that's where it ends up having some issues. So I just basically opened it up and clicked OK, and didn't actually change anything. But I want to see if that does the trick. All right, go back to my site content, and I've got I got to wrap up. So let me just check this one more time, and then maybe it'll be resolved by the time we start again. New hire account is in there. Yes, click OK, and then let's see if it came over here. Yeah, there it is. So it's in the list now. Huh. All right. And then, so what I was going to do is refresh this and put it in here in this update. So when it's updating, when they actually create the new hire account, I need it to fill in the new hire account with whatever they filled it in the task. So again, the person is not having to go anywhere but the task to do what they need to do. And then I'm going to do the same thing in here when they do the new phone number. They're going to create the new phone number, and then I'm going to set a field of, I think it's business phone, to whatever they filled in for business phone in that task. All right, so I'm going to have to go wrap it up. We got 1 minute. I'm just going to go ahead and publish these. But, oops, see, I didn't put a variable in here. Parallel count plus 1. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and publish this, and just quick announcements. We've got SharePoint Saturday Atlanta and SharePoint Saturday Baton Rouge are both on June 21st. Put my screen back on there. And what else? Anybody?
I'll be at
Saturday is this Friday.
Oh, cool.
Was that Tavis?
SharePoint Cincinnati conference is this Friday.
Fun. Okay. And that's
Well,
is that like a
in
SharePoint
Atlanta.
Saturday? Is that free?
No, it costs to get in, I believe. If you type in SharePoint Cincinnati 2014 into Bing or Google, you should find the page. I don't know how much it costs, but I will be speaking there for I'll
Yay!
be covering
All right.
services and reporting services.
Cool. I'll be at SharePoint Saturday Atlanta.
So will I.
Yay! Lori, it's good. We're going to party, right?
I'm going to the one in Baton Rouge because that's where I'm from. And then, of course, Lori and I have the SharePoint user group here in Birmingham, Alabama that we run. We have a meeting next Tuesday at lunchtime, and that's sharepointbham.org if anybody's interested in that, if you're local to us. And I think that's it. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And if we ever don't have this Power Hour, I'm going to announce it on Twitter if we have to cancel it for any reason. If one of us if we're all sick or we're all on site with clients or on vacation or whatever, I'll announce it on Twitter and put it on our SharePoint Rackspace Facebook page. It just doesn't let you make like announcements on a Google page. I mean, on a Google or YouTube, on a YouTube page. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us, Lori.
No problem. Had fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.